Hi everybody, this is Allison Durant coming to you from my studio here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And in front of me you will see a fine art print. This is 100% cotton rag material, otherwise known as a giclee print. So that I can spell in the description is giclee, Giclee, and there is a French accent on one of the E's, and it's been a long time since I've done any French, so again I can link it. And it basically is a term about spraying ink onto a surface. That's just a really basic way of calling it a giclee print. And this is my work titled Endless Landscapes. And the reason I wanted to share this piece today was to show you the variation that you can get when you put down a watercolor base and just let the watercolor and the pigment move around however it wants to move, and just getting down colors that you really enjoy and letting the water do its magic. So this landscape I think I had painted it in this lower quadrant and kind of worked my way up, which is very different than the landscapes that I have been sharing in my recent videos. I'm just gonna see if I have that one behind me. So this is a landscape that I would like to pull together. I don't feel like doing that today, but this is where we had left off. And this landscape is more of a traditional horizontal composition. And we had used a specific color palette and mark making with those beautiful Kuretake watercolor brush pens. So there's so many different examples of abstract landscapes, and I was just craving to do landscapes. So I wasn't planning on doing a video today, and I always feel today is just one of those days I'm kind of in my head, but that's okay. I really love that beautiful gold shimmer that I have on the side there, and that was the embellishment of this print. It's kind of fun to revisit your work after it's been reproduced into print because of that very reason. You can do everything from adding stitching. I really like adding stitching to my prints that are on canvas as sort of a way of embellishing them. And also a giclee print, this is a bit of a harder material to work with. It's a lovely watercolor type quality. It's quite thick, but it is a bit harder to do stitching on. So that's something I maybe will work towards at some point in time. And oh, the other thing I was thinking, well, just the title of this, Endless Landscapes, the possibilities in art and creativity are truly endless. And if you just pull some supplies that you have around you and think of abstraction, so not trying to create realistic landscapes, there are so many ways to do it. I would encourage you to maybe start a Pinterest board if you have access to that technology, or going to a library and pulling some art books, pulling some magazines on that have landscapes, and looking at different landscapes, whether they're abstract or more realistic landscapes, and just feeling out what you like, what appeals to you. Have you purchased art in the past that might be more of a realistic landscape, or do you have something that might have just those really bright colors? I do have black up here, and this painting I had done in 2020, so it was fairly early on in terms of my painting career, my work, when I started to call my artwork more of a business. That was in 2020. So this is earlier work, but I still do use a lot of darks in my work. And I really like how the watercolor, I had dropped in, I believe, a more opaque white or a gouache, and got sort of those blooms. So that was something I was doing in 2020. For those of you that follow me, you'll see kind of how my work has evolved. And I can show you actually what I'm working on today. So what I was doing, these were just over on my floor drying, and I was using a fixative over top of some of the areas I have black pen. So if you've subscribed to my channel and you're following me sort of in sort of the weekly videos I do in order, the most recent video was on collage, and this is a collage. Well, I suppose it's a landscape of sorts, and it could be a landscape. I'd love to go back over top of this with acrylic paints and create this abstract landscape. So that's something we can do at some point in time. But before I get too distracted here, I was using Spectrafix as my fixative. And this was in a hair product bottle, but I like to repurpose really good spray bottles. The one that Spectrafix comes in, sometimes the nozzle gets clogged, even despite using soap and water and letting it soak. So I really like this this bottle that I had for a hair product. Spectrafix is odor-free, non-toxic, all natural. It really is great for those of you that might be sensitive to chemicals. You want to, think more environmentally friendly. This is made with, I believe, milk casein, and I don't know a lot about it other than it is something that helps you fix your work before the final varnish or the final the final coat of wax is what I was trying to say. So there's the wax that I'm talking about. And what I was, before we get into the Dorland's cold wax medium, what I was sharing is using Spectrafix on pieces that were sitting around that I had completed, and I'm gonna mount these little works to a cradled wood panel. So this is the stage I'm at today. Oops, I've painted this. This is 3 inches square, and it's cradled. It has this lovely hollowed back edge. I mean, you could just sit it on a nail. It doesn't have to have a proper wire backing or anything. So you could also frame this wood block in a wooden frame, or maybe a shadow box. There's lots of different options for that. What I had done is I took my Arches cold pressed watercolor paper, which I really enjoy, and I had painted my art poetry painting on here. And what I can do is just bring you in a little bit closer. So this is very tiny, and you can see I had written in water-soluble crayon 3 by 3 inches, and I'm not sure what I had written there. And then I had just really gently drawn a line, so I knew to paint within that grid in order to paint and at some point mount it to this panel. So that's kind of what it would look like once it's glued down. And it's just a way that I love to vary my work when it's the finished product. When I'm working small like this, which I do sometimes really love, it's so cool to just have this beautiful little piece that, you could even put one of those screw tops in and put a ribbon on it, and it could be a Christmas ornament. I still have a wood fireplace shelf, or sorry, not a wood fireplace. I have a fireplace, a lovely shelf where it doesn't hold a lot, but this would be just a wonderful place to put a smaller piece. Or if you have a tiny wall, you could get a variety of different shapes of these, and that would be a really neat kind of gallery wall. And the other one I had done, I decided to do the edges in iridescent bronze. If you're wondering about what kind of paint, this was a more expensive paint. It is iridescent bronze by Golden, and it's a heavy body paint which goes on like butter. I use a makeup sponge that's not super absorbent to put it on, and this one I actually used this is a very well-loved bottle of paint. This again, it's more of a costly paint, but I'm at the point where I am painting a lot of my work for the purpose of selling and finishing it in a way that I'm hoping it will stay for years to come. So I like working with higher quality because I'm at the point where it is in my budget. Might not be for everybody, but this is Payne's gray by, it's a fluid acrylic by Golden. And what I had done is I just did a couple coats because I love dark blue. I'm actually wearing a dark blue shirt. And I find black a bit harsh. I often finish my edges in this iridescent bronze, but I felt like a change. So what I've done is I've finished this composition. I'm happy with it. I clear off any dust from what's left on the paper, because watercolor paper, especially cold pressed textured paper, does get a fair bit of dust on it. And I would spray it several times just to make sure I'm holding everything in place. I'm fixing it prior to doing my coat of the Dorland's wax medium. Now, this is supposedly low odor, but I use it outside. I do get headaches from it, and I use it sparingly, and I do it in several coats. So I don't do that on video, but I will link a really great artist, YouTube artist. Well, I don't know him actually for his art. I think he's probably a fantastic artist, but he's fantastic at teaching on YouTube, and his name is Bob Blast. And he is the one that helped me discover Dorland's wax medium and how to finish both watercolor works and, you know, a work like this would be sort of mixed media, like acrylics. So the wax medium is wonderful, and it really is easy. It's like buffing your car, which I have no experience with, by the way. I remember my brother when we were younger, and he would take such good care of his car, and I know he would buff it with wax. I don't think he does that anymore. But I don't know anything about buffing with wax. I just know you need probably something that's low dust, how do you say, a clean cloth or paper towel. I find paper towel gets too many flecks in it, so I would use like a shop towel. I like to use gloves, so I would put on a glove prior to putting the wax on, and then without fully buffing it out, I would do the coat of wax and let it sit for probably a day, you know, at least 12 hours, longer is better, and then you would buff it out and you get this gorgeous sheen, and then you can go back and do, you know, up to 3 coats even. So this is the stage I'm at, and the reason I was telling you this was I was talking about endless landscapes and how there's so many different types of, well, artwork, of course, but landscape art, or that context of landscapes. So this I consider a garden in a sky. This is what I call my art poetry paintings, where I have words, and for those of you that have been following me, you know that this is just sort of my style. But I think of this as a landscape in the sky, so just a slightly different composition than what you're looking at here. And this is the little painting I am hoping to mount on this panel. And this was a very, very inexpensive panel. This one I had purchased at the art store, and it is by, I'm just gonna get the name here. It is by a more expensive Canadian brand. I love that it's made in Canada. So this is an example of a 3.5 birch panel, and it's a cradled panel, and I just open the plastic when I get it home because you can run into warping even with small sizes if you don't let them breathe or if moisture gets in. And so this was $10.15 probably a year ago at Kensington Art Supply, my local art store here in Canada. And I love these sizes. This one was probably around $10 as well. So even though it's much smaller, sometimes the same amount of work kind of goes into it, and it would probably be around $10 I think I paid. This one, on the other hand, I think I had picked up at Michael's, and I didn't save the packaging, but I can see it's actually, it has a crack here. It's just, I don't even know what they used. It's a cheap, fun kind of version that you don't have to be too invested in. And it has a ledge here, so you can just see it's a little bit hard to get that straight edge. So I would go with, you know, what's in your budget if you are gonna try and mount some of your paintings to panel. And you can just see I had kind of made a line where I want to eventually cut it and glue it, but that would be this little painting. And although it was, you know, a more, how do you say, affordable kind of wood panel, it still really will hold up probably a super long time. And it's lightweight, which is wonderful for shipping and hanging on the wall, and it's like less likely to jump off the wall and damage something, whereas something a bit more with more heft, more of a point here versus that soft edge, that's just something I think about as well, because I have not art off my wall before. So I'm working on Spectrafix, and I get really excited about just trying new different techniques. I also thought, well, my printer had given me this little proof of my landscape, which is titled Seeing the Forest for the Trees. But he was making notes on it before he gave me this little proof. And so if I had, you know, I think this would be kind of cool mounted to a little panel. This is a canvas print. I'm not sure what glue I would use, maybe Yes Paste or something that has a little bit more heft, like a matte gel. And I would paint over where there was the writing. I just thought I'd share that with you. And again, my videos are solely for inspiration. And I was kind of thinking recently, almost distraction, because I don't know about you guys, but there's just so much going on. My heart goes out to everybody in Southern California, in California area with the forest fires. As you know, I'm in Alberta, Canada, and we know very well the devastation and destruction and heaviness that comes with managing those when they're out of control. And so anyways, so on to though, I love this little card deck, The Little Frog's Guide to Self-Care. This is by Maybell Eequay. You can see her name right here, Maybell with 2 E's, Eequay. So I'll link that in the description. And I have not gone through these cards. I'm thinking now this would be such a great thing to do with my son after school or in the evenings. And let's just pick a card at random. And this one says, I'm gonna bring you back in. I do not expect perfection from others, so I will not expect it from myself. And this is really, this is very fitting. Well, I find a lot of these cards very fitting. That's probably why I bought this deck. I really need to remind myself of self-care. And I think when we get really busy and we're caring for others, I worked as a registered nurse for so many years, and I have a very busy little family, and you know, I think it's just easy not to put yourself first sometimes, and I'm really trying to work on that self-care so I can better care for those around me. And not expecting perfection. So with my art, when I had first started artwork and in school, I know I was definitely discouraged because the teachers at the time, I mean, this was in the, I suppose it was in the 80s, early 90s, you know, taking art in school, it felt more like, you know, you can still do it wrong. And I just really hope that nowadays our how do we say, how we're marking children in art class and in artwork, you almost wonder if it's something that really should be even graded, you know, because just the act of creating something is absolutely amazing. And if it comes from within, from when we're kids, even adults, I mean, it's totally authentic. And who is to judge it, whether it's good or bad, or, you know, so that's just my thought. I know my son recently got marked very poorly in art, and he's only in grade 1. And it just made me realize, you know, yeah, anyway, I'm kind of going down a road I don't want to go down. but he's so creative, and I believe he is, he's just following his heart, his art, and I hope that he never gets discouraged based on other people's external, how do I say? I just hope that he knows that it's the process that he loves, and what he does is amazing despite how the outcome is. And I'm trying to do more art myself, thinking of that. And I think just the process of doing art all the time, I try and create every day, you do realize that the things that aren't perfect are often the things that you love the most, that resonate the most, that resonate with other people. And we could just do like a little landscape. So I'm gonna just grab whatever brush I have, which was my Princeton Aqua Elite. This is a number 16 round, which I very rarely use this big, but let's just see how we do. And I'm working on Canson XL watercolor paper, and this is 140 pounds. This happens to be, 140 pounds, 300 grams, and 11 by 15 inches. And it's just a great watercolor paper to just kind of play around on. And I'm gonna just bring you back out a little bit. And I'm gonna use two palettes. I'm gonna use my Beam Paints, this great little birch non-toxic palette. This is another Canadian company. And my other fave is the Stone Ground Paint Co. This little palette that I just randomly went on the website and picked colors I didn't have that I use all the time and I love, and I'm really happy with it. So I did do a video on this a few weeks ago. So there is a video on swatching the Stone Ground Paint Co. this little palette, and I'll try and kind of tell you the colors I'm using as I go. I'm just gonna activate it by dropping some water with my super large brush. I guess this comes in handy when it's so big, because I don't need my spray bottle to drop some big droplets on there. And I'm gonna activate my little round birch panel, wood panel. Get it pretty wet. And I don't care that my colors mix, that's doesn't bother me. And I'm just gonna drive you guys up a little bit. And so I just don't want you to overthink anything about what you're doing right now. So grab some paper, some watercolor paper, ideally 98 pounds or 140 pounds is even better. I'm just gonna reposition here. And just grab some watercolors that you have on hand, a paintbrush that you have on hand, and I really feel like one of my favorite colors is this magenta. This is, I believe, cherry, I think it's called cherry magenta in Beam Paints. And I'm just gonna put it down, and then I'm gonna hop over to my quinacridone red in Beam Paints and just kind of, where do I wanna go here? See, you guys can kind of see that. And I'm just gonna loosely, see those colors are so similar. And I'm gonna just not even worry about, I guess I'm not gonna clean my brush. I'm just gonna, if you can just see the very side here, I have a scrap piece of cheap watercolor paper, and I'm making marks which I can use in future works, future backgrounds. And I'm gonna dip into Autumn Fox while this is still wet. And I'm just gonna pull some of it down. I'm gonna go back into it, just get more pigment down. And I'm gonna go over to Tiger Lily and just put some Tiger Lily in there. And I'm gonna go straight into, after getting some of the pigment off and going in my water, I'm gonna go into Poplar Yellow, this beautiful yellow. I must be craving brights right now. I'm gonna just put some over in the side here. And I feel like going into pipestone, which is a really light color there. Or maybe, you know, I'm gonna do actually raw sienna and just drop some of the raw sienna and pull it out to the side. And I'm not really thinking too much about shapes. I'm just putting down colors that I really enjoy. I often stick with warmer colors to start, not always, but sometimes. Just deciding, what do I want to do here? I almost want to use my palette to, I don't really have a whole lot of darks. I'm just going to dip into this gray ochre by the Stone Ground Paint Co. And I'm going to just pop it onto my palette because I'm working with such a large brush. And I'm going to mix in that raw sienna and go back to this one. And maybe I'll pop in some blue. I think this is called Winter's Night, Wintry Night. It's a really interesting color. So I used a little bit of gray ochre from the Stone Ground Paint Co. mixed with raw sienna, and you can see I just go right in and mix right on the palette. And then Winter's Night, that beautiful kind of royal blue. And before this dries, I'm just gonna wanna kind of touch some of it and pull it down, just squint my eyes, let it blend. Maybe add a bit more water here. And maybe I'll darken this up a bit with more burnt sienna and just drop that in. It comes out with a really lovely neutral brown. And then I kind of feel what I like in my art is I would probably repeat this grounding color somewhere at the top. So maybe off in the distance, I'm just gonna put that almost like a hill. And immediately I want to go to, where am I gonna put this? I have so much stuff on my desk. Just gonna clear off my brush a bit. I just want to go into Robin's Egg. Such a beautiful color. And maybe just kind of bringing up some of the Robin's Egg in here and letting it mix. I know somebody said that they'd love it if I craved more purple, and I'm kind of leaning towards a little bit of purple as this quinacridone magenta and Robin's Egg mix. It's becoming a bit of a gray. Just gonna go right off the page there. And I'm gonna just, I think that's enough of a pop of that Robin's Egg for what I was feeling. So I'm not gonna put any more in. And this is a really good opportunity when my painting is at this stage. I love how it's kind of all bleeding together there. This is an opportunity for dropping in metallics. So I'm gonna get that gorgeous gold mica and just kind of drop it in with my big round brush. And just kind of sit with that for a minute, maybe drop a bit in the side, maybe kind of pull some of that together here. And I wouldn't recommend painting to right to the edge of the page like I'm doing, but when I paint, I often don't really overthink that, because that would be, again, that almost perfectionism creeping in that, oh, like, you know, I know this is going to be, well, I suppose it's not just perfectionism. It's like knowing when I'm finished the painting, it will be harder to mount. It will be harder to frame if you don't have a bit of edge here. So, you know, I would encourage you to definitely think about what our standard frame size is before you paint, if you're painting with the intention of selling or finishing your work that way. If it's just play, if it's just a sketchbook, it just doesn't matter. And I kind of have gold on my brush, but I'm gonna go into the gray ochre again and just darken up some of this area down here. I'm just kind of touching it around the side, and I'm wondering if I have enough neutrals in here. I might go into this Nicosa green earth and a little bit of this Victoria green. And this is pretty dry up here, but I might just go over top anyways and just see what it does. And yeah, so I'm gonna let this dry. And if you have any water-soluble crayons, like the water-soluble pencil crayons or just regular, I use Neocolor Caran crayons. I'm just gonna show you a couple, see if I can get them out. I love these Stabilo Woodies. These are just wonderful. They're great for kids. They are just great, well, for adults as well if you're into mixed media. And this is a water-soluble crayon. And I'm just gonna do some loose line work through the middle there. So this would turn to water if you were to wet your brush. You can see this here. Just gonna activate it there. Just activate it a little bit over here and maybe up here. So I just felt like adding that black in here. And then the next thing I'm gonna do is maybe, this is a really bright landscape. And what you can do is, this probably won't show up too much, a Neocolor 2, which is a water-soluble wax crayon, a wax pastel. And I'm just gonna do some loose marks in here. And you can just see in different areas of the watercolor, it shows a slightly different mark. And I am smudging down here, but that's okay. You can always fix that later. And so you can just say, well, maybe I want to try one that shows up more. Let's just see what we have. This is a Neocolor 2. This is a darker, oh, it's actually quite a bright blue. I'm not really wanting that blue. I might go to, let's see. I might go with a gray. So a water-soluble crayon in, again, this is just like play. I'm just practicing mark making in that layer that's already kind of wet and just deciding how it feels. And I'm thinking about, I don't know what I'm thinking about, like little trees, what feels good in my hand when I'm creating, what movements feel good. Maybe you want to do little hills. And I'm gonna just maybe repeat that. Maybe just repeat that down here, some of those little marks. And if you enjoy what you did, you want to repeat it. Just trying to decide when something really stands out. The Neocolor 2 Veronese green. I might just decide, where do I want to put this? I might just do maybe some hills with this one. Nope, I'm kind of indecisive. I'm gonna do, I'm craving neutrals, which is interesting. Might just go with might just use this ochre and kind of do some hills in here. So I'm just gonna really loosely add in, maybe going off the page even, like that. Maybe adding another one kind of down in here. And I like how that went through the black. So I'm just gonna kind of play around and repeat it. It's almost like a little rainbow down there, and you're just kind of stepping back and seeing what you're enjoying about this process. It's a really nice yellow, number 201, really pastel yellow Stabilo woody, and just deciding, like, you know, if you wanted to incorporate that yellow into here, this area, and say you don't have that watercolor, that light yellow, maybe a little bit over here. If you like it like that, you don't have to activate it with water. But just, you can see how I was able to, I can even go over those hills, those yellow ochre hills, that line work, because those are water soluble. And then just add in some of that light yellow in here. And you can always dab up if you put too much or don't like it. You can dab it right off. There's a pool of water here. I'm just gonna catch a bit. And as this dries, I'm liking different areas more than, say, others when I had first started. I always like to have a moon in my work. I have my, this is a very thin, this is more of a fine tip, bullet shape, 0.9 to 1.3 millimeter bronze Posca pen. But I always like to have my moons in here, and I cheat. I have this awesome little, this helps me get my round moon in here, and I'm just gonna put it, try not to smudge anything. I could turn my paper, but when I'm on camera, it's a little harder. So we've got our moon in there. And just gonna dab up some of it. And say you want to have in, maybe you love detail, that is just awesome, because right now while it's wet, you can use all of those water soluble supplies that you have that might be sitting around. So let's just see what we have. So I really like, I don't know why, gray right now. I'm gonna, maybe I'll go with this, I really, really like this khaki green, this number 16 brush by Supercolor 2 Neocolor Caran d'Ache. So the same company that makes those crayons I was just showing you. And in here, just deciding what do I want to do. I could do, I think I'm gonna do some line work, just kind of just some lines going through different areas of the watercolor. Because I have a very horizontal kind of landscape, abstract landscape, you know, this could be grass, it could be trees. I like the marks that are coming up with the wet watercolor here in that gold. And it's, I kind of want a darker green, so I'm gonna flip over and use my Faber-Castell greenish yellow. And actually that's still lighter than I would like. I'm just gonna add, that's a bit too bright, but that's okay. Just adding some green. And I'm really loosely holding my pencil just so it's more of an authentic, loose feeling, just like the reflection of this landscape when I look at it. And you could even do maybe some little rocks, like really loose rocks down here, different shapes. And just, again, you can even use your non-dominant hand. I love to paint with my left hand, constantly kind of switching back and forth. which uses our brain pathways. Those pathways are activating in a different way when we do that. So it's a really great thing to do. And it's a good way to stay loose. I'm starting to enjoy this landscape a lot. I know that I can cover up areas I don't like with acrylic paint. And I'm just kind of thinking, you know, for myself, I would add in my birds, because that's just something I like to do in my work. So without smudging, oh, it's really tricky not to smudge. I'm gonna just, because I'm gonna smudge if I go that way, I'm just gonna add maybe just a little bird down here. And then after it dries, I'll add in more. But using these micron pens, this one's kind of worn down, but the micron, the Pigma, this is a 0.7 millimeter. And once this is fully dry, that's when you would bring in your permanent pens, crayons, whether it's your kids' crayons. You could bring in, you know, just a ballpoint pen that you have sitting around in your office. Pencil is awesome. So you don't have to have all these fancy art supplies. You just want to have preferably 98 to 140 pound weighted paper and a good watercolor brush, but you know, that can just be very affordable, a dollar store. This is a Crayola round. This is a smaller brush, but they have thicker ones. They're very, very affordable. This is a synthetic brush. And again, some watercolors. If you, where do I want to go with this? I was just thinking, I'm gonna just tear this off, I think. You can see I was cleaning my brush on the back. That was from yesterday. And actually, that is how I clean my brush after I was just showing you the... Oh my gosh, I have so much on my desk. Where are we? So this is when I was using the Payne's Gray. This is the color of that golden Payne's Gray when I was wiping my brush. And it's just a great way to clean your brush before cleaning it with, say, soap and water, and getting any paint off before it goes, hopefully not down the drain. And this is just on the cover of my watercolor book. So you'll see a lot of my books get covered with brush marks. And this is also a really neat way to go back and be like, oh, I remember that I was cleaning off my brush when I painted, say, this particular painting. And you know, sometimes this is when I was trying to get my gray Posca pen working. And so this, I realized my Posca had run out. The other thing you could do, this is so small, I was tempted to just color with a wide tip, so like a chisel tip. They have these paint pens that come quite thick, like a really, I don't know what the size would be, but a chisel tip, and you could just use a paint pen. A little bit harder, but I mean, if you don't want any mess, and that's just an easy way to do the edges. You want to give it a couple coats though. Oh, but what I was saying is, you know, you may look back at this, and if you were cleaning your brush with, say, let's just say, I mean, a different color, you would see this at a later date, and just, you might even say, oh, that is a stunning color palette that I would love to revisit. And also, this is where I learned with watercolor, it resists when you put it over acrylic paint, because acrylic paint is plastic. And so it just makes for interesting learning when you're cleaning your brush this way. And it's just, again, good for the environment, better to get the paint off that way. And then what I'm going to do is just flip this over. Just going to put this down, and You know, I was just, as I was thinking about this painting, which I titled Endless Landscapes, I title my art based on my relationship with creativity, and I think I was thinking how I have endless inspiration and ideas when I'm creating. I just feel like there's so much constantly that's in me, and I just have to find the time to let it out. And it's just, I was listening to, well, I recently watched a beautiful documentary, very sad, but about the incredible young DJ Avicii. And I was listening to a song titled Hey You, or sorry, Hey Brother. And I know the lyrics of that song. The first lyric was something about an endless landscape, an endless road, yet to be discovered. Hey brother, there's an endless road to be discovered. I think that's what it was. I was listening to that this morning, which was strange because the word endless kind of came out. And the other strange thing, I mean, I just think of synchronicity in our lives, and when we actually stop to think of those moments or write them down and remember them, it's quite interesting. So when I was doing this dot work this morning, it reminded me a conversation I had with my son the other evening. It was a really beautiful conversation, and it will make me emotional, so I'm trying to hold myself back. But my son had told me that he loves me more than, he was saying, it's raining universes. And he says, when I think of how much I love you, it's raining universes because universes are endless. And we got into the conversation about what is on the outside of a universe, what is past the universe, infinity. And we were having this conversation. He just turned 7. And I remember as a kid, I used to think of, like, when I laid in bed, like, what is beyond the universe and where we are at now, and thinking of endless landscapes and things that continue on. And it was just really cute because he was talking about raindrops, and how if every raindrop in these endless universes that were raining, and he just told me they're filled with hearts. And, you know, it was just such a beautiful thing that he had said. And so I had written down in my little journal, you know, that would be a title I would want for one of my future works, which is Raining Universes. And I was thinking today of my endless landscapes, and anyways, that's kind of where that is where my brain goes when I talk on video. But it's like kind of neat how we can link up some of those beautiful moments and find meaning in them. Funny, right now I see this rose that I had done in 2020 is a very similar rose I had etched in to the front of this art poetry card. Etching's not something I do a lot of, but I enjoy it in my work, not often on watercolors. So this, just looking at this, reminds me of going back to etching in some of my watercolor art and how can I incorporate it. Recently I've been incorporating this isn't totally finished, one of my art poetry paintings, In Every Moment I Carry You With Me. I had just added in some botanical collage, and I did that last night. And because some of you know, collage has been really on my radar lately. And also these are not finished yet. These are some more landscapes I was working on. This has a very fall, you know, September, October, November here in Alberta, Canada, beautiful fall colors. Often you'd see these colors more in the east, down east, in Ontario, Nova Scotia, with the oranges anyways. But I had put this botanical leaf work in here from Real Botanicals, and same with up here on this painting that I have yet to finish. These are just examples of different styles of landscapes, and this is just the background. I love the process of creating these abstract backgrounds and then going back and finishing them with words and mark making that I love, and then possibly putting them on wood panels. Let's just flip this over. I can't remember if this is a card in my art poetry deck. I don't think it is. And then this is my my mountain landscape, so more of a traditional Canadian landscape. I'm right by in the heart of the Rocky Mountains here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. So I paint a lot of those mountains. You can see the little white rocks. I do a lot of roses and leaves, and my birds, traditional moon. Have deep conviction for the things that you care about. So, you know, just making sure that you're prioritizing, you know, art and creativity in your life, if that's something that you really care about and you feel like benefits you. And I'm probably gonna leave you with that. And is there anything else I wanted to share? I think just to remind you to use what supplies you have on hand and try not to overthink, especially this abstract watercolor art. If you like my style, the less you can overthink it and just tap into what is calling your name, what next move when you have your paintbrush, what's calling your name, and turn off that voice inside your head that's like, that might wreck it, or oh, I don't know if that would go together, or you know, those colors might not mix well. Just do it. If you have that like split second where you're thinking of making a mark, making one next move, having that continued conversation with this piece, just do it, and you will be amazed at the result and the process and how it feels, and you'll kind of train yourself to love creating and love art. And thank you so much for tuning into my videos. And oh, I wanted to say I've started a blog on my website, alisondurant.com, and it's under the About section. There's a heading titled Blog, and it looks like you can actually comment to me there. So some of you have been wanting to share your art that you said I've inspired you to create, and I don't know if I can be tagged very easily on Instagram. I'm kind of moving away from some of those social media channels. I've had so many emails from you all. Like every day I get stories from you and inspirational, just so many beautiful emails. So I just wanted to say a heartfelt thank you for reaching out like that. I also was wondering if you are still listening to this, can you please let me know if it's easy for you to first just comment on my blog. Does that actually, does it allow you to comment, that little box underneath what I've written? And can you upload a photo? Probably not. But if you share a photo of your work where I've inspired you in some way, and I can try and post that just to see if that would work, because I know that would be a fun place to just have sort of sharing. And again, I get so bombarded with emails and it's hard to get back to everyone. So I think if I can reroute comments to the YouTube channel, I've had some feedback about my videos and the length of time, some really great suggestions, and that would, I think, help other people too. And it would give me more of an idea if someone does say, hey, I'm finding these videos really long, can you split them up or make them shorter? This is just an example. You know, then if it's written right on my channel instead of in an email, I can hear what other people are thinking as well, and just really try and get the consensus from the community to help guide what would you like best, and I will then see if that also works for me. So I'm totally just, yeah, so grateful, and I am going to thank you all before this becomes an endless video, and happy creating.